All right. Welcome to Love Data Week 2024 from the network of the National Library of Medicine. My name is Christine Neiman-Hislop, and I am the Data Education Librarian for NNLM Region 1. I'll be our host/moderator today, and I'm also joined by Katie Pierce-Ferrier, the Data Science Strategist from NNLM Region 3, who'll be assisting with the chat and also offering tech support. You can access the chat and closed captions for this presentation from the Zoom toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom window. We will be holding all questions until the end. This class is also eligible for MLA continuing education credit, and there will be a short evaluation survey link shared at the end that you can also use for claiming that credit. Just briefly before we dive into today's presentation, in case you are not familiar with the NNLM, that is the network of the National Library of Medicine. Here's some acronyms. The NLM is the National Library of Medicine, and the National Library of Medicine is one of the 27 institutes and offices of the National Institutes of Health. It is the world's largest biomedical library and produces online resources such as PubMed and Medline Plus. The NNLM is an outreach and education art program of the NLM, working to ensure health professionals and the public have equal access to information. And the NNLM is made up of 7 regional medical libraries, 3 national offices, and 4 national centers, all providing training, funding, and engagement opportunities to over 9,000 NNLM member organizations. So if you'd like to connect with your regional medical library or learn how to become a network member, you can find your region and check out our website at nnlm.gov. Or you can also ask Katie or I. We're located in Baltimore, Maryland, and in Texas. And I'm going to stop sharing. That's great. It's now time to introduce today's speaker, Kimberley R. Barker. Kimberley has over 24 years experience in the field. She is currently the librarian for belonging and community engagement at the University of Virginia's Claude Moore Health Science Library. Kimberley has held a variety of positions in different areas of librarianship, including public, academic, and independent schools, and specialized in several areas, including outreach, marketing, emerging technology, teaching, and equity and justice. Kimberley's instructional work for UVA Health focuses on the series she created, Contemporary Issues and Healthcare, which targets the intersection of healthcare with topics such as artificial intelligence, net neutrality, climate change, bias, and reputation management. And I have a link to Kimberley's other presentations. I'm a graduate of both Furman University and the University of South Carolina. Kimberley is one of the past chairs of has been a past chair of the Medical Library Association's Technology Advisory Committee and the Technology Program Advisory Committee for the National Network of Libraries of Medicine, Region 1. In her non-work life, she enjoys forging, improving her embroidery, playing D&D badly, and listening to industrial metal. Okay, take it away, Kimberley. Stop sharing.
Thank you, Christine. Thanks everybody for being here. We have a lot to get through, so I am going to, I can't, hold on. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna get started here, but I cannot see my slides anymore. Christine, are you seeing the slides?
I am not seeing any slides. Do you need?
I thought you were gonna keep sharing the screen so that I can advance them.
I don't know if you can advance them if I'm sharing, but I can advance them.
All right. Well, then I will just pull mine up. Sorry, little miscommunication there. All right. I'm sharing my screen. All right. Can everybody see that? I hope the answer is All right, great. Thank you for the introduction. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I usually am a fast talker. I'm going to be an especially fast talker today. There's a lot to get through. So I'm happy to stick around afterwards and answer questions or talk more if we run out of time, but I'm going to do my best to get through all of this. First, I need to respectfully acknowledge that the University of Virginia, where I work, inhabits the unceded, traditional, and current territory of the Monacan Indian Nation. That is a link to their website. Go check them out. I also need to acknowledge the University of Virginia, its construction, growth, and development was made possible through the coerced labor of enslaved Africans and African Americans. We are all indebted to their sacrifice. We recognize that the legacies of slavery are still present today and that racism continues to shape our laws, cultures, and institutions. I always like to start off with a definition so we're all on the same page. So AI is the theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision-making, and translation between languages. I am going to give an extremely brief history of AI. It is obviously much more involved, but we're just going to hit the highlights. So this is an idea that actually has its roots in the ancient world. This is by no means a modern idea, but it was ideas and dreams in the ancient world. There are the myths of Talos and Galatea. I'll let you Google those on your own. We're going to skip to the Middle Ages. There were practical applications of the idea of artificial intelligence with Al-Jazari's he built a human-shaped orchestra that could play on its own. And then there's also the tale of Rabbi Judah Loew ben Bezalel, who created the golem to protect the Jewish people. So something made from clay that was then given its own will to do things. Now we're skipping to the early modern period, where we see the first digital calculating machine. And we also have this idea in Gulliver's Travels of the engine, which is a project for improving speculative knowledge by practical and mechanical operations. Now we come up to 1818, and this is, believe it or not, a seminal year for the idea of artificial intelligence because Mary Shelley published Frankenstein. This is one of the first modern instances of publicly grappling with the ethics of creating consciousness. Not can we do this, but should we do this? Also, the idea of worrying about what happens if your creation turns on you, which we have seen as the subject of many books and movies and things. We're skipping to the 1940s and 50s, and this time was really characterized by a blend of the theoretical and the practical. You're really seeing a lot of theories being developed and then actually put into practice. For instance, Zeus built the first working program-controlled computer. Integral to the development of modern AI is Theory of Games and Economic Behavior, and it was published during this time. The Turing test was introduced. Probably you're familiar with that. If you're not, maybe you're familiar with Asimov, the 3 laws of robotics, also known as the 3 laws safe. Samuels builds a program which learns how to play checkers. Dartmouth College organized a summer AI conference, and this is actually where the term artificial intelligence was coined. And then during this time, also the MIT AI Lab was founded. This brings us up to the 60s and 70s. Again, lots of practical application and some more theory. The first chatbot, named after Eliza Doolittle, was created. Stanford Cart was created, which was a first computer-controlled vehicle. 80s and 90s, we really, during this time period, begin to see theory brought to fruition in terms of how we think of AI currently. We really started seeing that. If you're of a certain age, you'll remember when Deep Blue beat Kasparov. This is when web crawlers and other AI-based information extraction programs really became essential throughout widespread use of the internet. During the 2000s, this was a time really characterized by increasingly sophisticated practical applications. In 2004, we saw Spirit and Opportunity autonomously navigate Mars. 2005, something that we all just take for granted now, which is recommendation technology that's based on tracking what you're doing online, really brought AI to marketing in a very big way. In 2011, Watson defeated Jeopardy champions. And then 2011 to 2014, we are seeing Siri, Google Now, Cortana. So we're seeing use of natural language, recommendations, and performing actions like play this song or call mom or whatever. November 30th, 2022, OpenAI launched ChatGPT. And this is really the moment when AI was brought into households, right? People could get subscriptions to it and just use it all the time. So that really brought it into the public consciousness in a way that I don't think we've ever really seen before. This date is a little bit out of order, I apologize, but just last month, Rabbit R1 was launched, and it is a very cute little, almost a Game Boy size pocket AI. It comes out around $200. It's really cool, and you can do things for you and do actions. If you haven't seen it, go look it up. It's really neat. 2000s continued. Really worry about AI started gaining more traction, I think, as people could get hold of it and see what it was doing. And this worry was manifesting in the form of ethical and legal hearings, finally. In 2017, the Asilomar Conference on Beneficial AI was convened, and they were discussing AI ethics and strategies for how to bring about beneficial AI while avoid risk from some of the things that are probably popping in your mind, our robot overlords. In 2021, the WHO released its Ethics and Governance of Artificial Intelligence for Health. March 30th, 2023, Italy actually banned ChatGPT because it was collecting personal data and had no age verification requirement during registration. So Italy was mad. They banned ChatGPT. ChatGPT fixed all of that, and it's no longer banned. May 16th, 2023, you had OpenAI CEO appearing in a Senate subcommittee hearing on the oversight of AI, where he talked about, well, yeah, we may have to have AI regulation, but we don't want it to slow innovation and profit and other things. There's definitely two sides for this for sure. In December 2023, the UN released its Governing AI for Humanity. Also, let me tell you that these things are all, I have like 14, 15 slides full of resources. So most of this stuff is there. So you can just be present in the presentation, and you can look at all of later in the resource slides. So I think it's important at this point, now that we have some historical context, to really talk about what is state-of-the-art AI. And a lot of us probably, what comes to mind when we think of AI is something like, Baymax or C3PO or, something that's really, really capable of independent thought. But actually, that is not true. Machine learning is really state-of-the-art AI. So AI is one category and machine learning is one application. And I think this quote from Nidhi Chappell is really important. The way I think of AI is the science and machine learning the algorithms that make the machine smarter. The enabling for AI is machine learning. Another way to think about this is, for example, turmeric is a spice, but not all spices are turmeric. So machine learning is a form of AI, but not all forms of AI are machine learning. What is it? Let's define it. An application of artificial intelligence that provides systems the ability to automatically learn and improve from experience without being explicitly programmed. Machine learning focuses on the development of computer programs that can access data and use it to learn for themselves. So what we're really talking about here are large language models using and pattern recognition. So forms of learning are the state-of-the-art AI. Machine independent thought isn't a reality yet. So y'all are here, I think, probably in large part because you want to know what the link is to healthcare. So let's get into that. So why is it being pursued in healthcare? Well, there are quite a few reasons. Want to save time and money, improve efficiency. There's a shortage of workers, so hopefully AI can fill some of those gaps. Improve patient outcomes, the ultimate purpose of healthcare, right? And strengthen security. So why is AI possible in healthcare now? It really is the perfect storm. We've talked about big data for, I don't know, at least a decade, right? So we had all this big data and we could do some things with it, but now we have not only the robust algorithms that we really need to be able to tackle the big data, but we have the processing power. That was a big barrier before. We just weren't able to really tackle the data and do anything with it. And so now is just the perfect set of conditions. Let's talk about barriers to use of AI in healthcare. Dirty data, right? So data management has to happen first. You just have to get that data cleaned up. Siloed data, if things are in their own separate containers and the AI can't access it, then it's not going to be able, one of the things that's really amazing about AI is how it can draw connections, right? It can pull out patterns like we've talked about. It can't do that if things are separated from it. And also lack of infrastructure data management plan. So your DMP should be predicated on International Data Corporation, IDC, third platform principles, which are then anchored by these big 4 areas. So you've got your big data and analytics, cloud, mobile, and social. Some types of AI in healthcare. One is robotic process automation, or RPA. It's the use of AI in computer programs to automate administrative and clinical workflows, improving patient experience. Another is natural language processing, a term we're all probably pretty familiar with, which is the use of machine learning to understand human language, verbal and written, and interpret documentation, notes, reports, and published research. Machine learning, again, training algorithms using data sets such as health records to create models capable of performing such tasks as categorizing information or predicting outcomes. Just imagine an AI that is looking at all of the data in your EMR, every test that's ever been done on you, every set of labs, any information, doctor's notes, all of that. If the AI can access it and process it in a few seconds and then find patterns for you, nobody's looking at your data that way. And so you can imagine, of course, there are probably some bad applications too, but just imagine how incredible that is and what patterns it could find and predictions it could make. But I do go on. Let's get back to this. Deep learning. This is a subset of machine learning that involves even greater volumes of data, training times, and layers of machine learning algorithms to produce these neural networks capable of more complex tasks. Neural networks we haven't really talked about, but they're just huge networks, basically, of the AIs working together. So some uses for AI in healthcare are predictive analytics and modeling, pattern recognition, disease detection, precision medicine, patient self-monitoring, and scheduling. So let's look at these individually. Predictive analytics and modeling. Using AI, you can increase the accuracy of diagnoses. Again, consider all the patient data that you may be able to access of a big group of people, right? Improve preventive medicine and public health, enhance personalized care, remember precision medicine, right? Accurately predict insurance costs, that'd be really nice. Streamline research and development with prediction models. Instead of having to go to, rats, you can actually run a lot of these models to figure out which medication is the most likely one to work, or components, which also, saves a lot of money, right? If you can just run it through a computer instead of moving on to like live subjects. It can guide drug development to deliver medications that meet public need. I really would love to see this being used in antibiotics. And of course, better patient outcomes. Again, that's what we're hoping for. A good example of how this is being done is again, this is linked in the resources, medical tasks at AMII from the University of Alberta AI Medical Informatics Group. They're actively engaged with many teams of medical researchers exploring ways to use patient data, produce classifiers that can make accurate predictions about future patients. And then they say these projects involve using various information about a patient with the goal of predicting some relevant property of that patient. We seek ways to learn these predictors from historical data, often augmented with other prior biological data, such as metabolic or signaling pathways. And if you go and look, they have a list of projects that they're actually working on, and it's really cool. Looking at pattern recognition for disease detection in dermatology, we're talking about looking at data sets to learn to recognize skin cancer. In radiology, Arturos was the first AI assistant to receive FDA approval. It's been around for a while. In cardiology, AI can be used to listen to tons and tons and tons of heart sounds recordings, learn what an arrhythmia sounds like, and then be able to diagnose. That's a very basic example. Patient monitoring and self-monitoring. Comment actually was developed by a clinician here at UVA, uses continuous monitoring and computer algorithms to create a visual portrait of a patient's risk of experiencing a serious event over the next 12 hours. This is something, again, a basic example would be fall risk, right? You have this portrait, you see what's been going on with them. Are they likely to fall? And of course, many more applications for that. Chronic and acute conditions, pre and post-surgery, PeerWell is an AI for total joint replacement. And of course, you can see it could have application for many other things, but you begin using the app before surgery, and then you receive customized daily lessons and tasks, which requires you, the patient, to put your results in the app. And then the algorithm adjust your pre and post surgery instructions based on what you're telling it, which is just, I think that's so cool. And you can see how that kind of precision medicine would definitely help you to have a better outcome. There are all kinds of AI apps out there now: diabetes management, palliative care, congenital heart disease. Scheduling and searching. Some examples would be Hyro through a HIPAA-compliant API integrated with the health system's EMR. The AI assistant sources the patient's records, retrieves upcoming appointment information, and reschedules end-to-end with zero human intervention. I have heard it said at UVA that one of the things they'd like to eliminate is the waiting room. And this is a great way to be able to do this, and also the other aspects of scheduling. The other thing that can be done is searching huge amounts of data incredibly fast. A lot of you are probably already familiar with elicit.org. It can find relevant papers without perfect keyword match, summarize takeaways from papers specific to your question, and extract key information from the papers. And this comes out of a nonprofit called OUGHT that is international. Just 8 people working on this. There's also LitSense, which lets you search for sentences in more than 30 million biomedical publications, and this is from NLM. Just as important as talking about anything else we're talking about today is AI and bias. This has to be, it has to be addressed. So AI, as we all know, and hopefully if you didn't come into it kind of seeing the shape of it, you kind of get it now. As primitive as AI really is in a lot of ways, it is very powerful. This is a very powerful tool. And, people have had concerns about our robot overlords or ethics or whatever. And bias is a huge area of concern because an AI can only be as unbiased as the data on which it's trained, the people who program it, and the systems and institutions into which it's deployed. So taking those one by one, the data on which it's trained, deep neural networks for images are most often trained on ImageNet. And I do have the citation for this in my resources. But you can see that the data comes mostly from the United States. There's more than 14 million labeled images, but most come from the United States, which is how you get things like this. This neural network for images was told to return images of brides, and it only returned the images like the ones on the left. right? Which is a very Western white-centric view of what a bride is. And you can see that's from AI can be sexist and racist. It's time to make it fair from nature. Again, only is unbiased on the data on which it's trained. This is also from that same article. Language models are more capable than ever, but also more biased. New data shows that larger models are also more capable of reflecting biases from their training data. A 280 billion parameter model developed in 2021 shows a 29% increase in elicited toxicity. We'll talk about that in a minute, over a 117 million parameter model considered the state of the art as of 2018. Natural language processing algorithms are trained on data sets that are scraped from Google Images, Google News, Wikipedia. You can understand why that might be problematic and contain biases, right? And then there are also biased medical artifacts. So this article from Ferryman et al., again, in the resources, even when trained with data sets of thousands of images, the AI model exhibited a pattern of underdiagnosis, this was chest x-ray, in underserved and racial and ethnic minority groups. So it isn't just that, you know, bias is bad, bias can kill, right? We saw that with, particularly during the height of COVID, with pulse oximeters, where people of color it couldn't read on darker skin accurately. And also algorithms that are trained into a lot of very common tests are trained on mostly white people. They've gotten that data from that. So bias kills, and that's why it's really important that we be aware of this and what they're learning. So AI can only be as unbiased as the people who program it. And this comes from Stanford's Artificial Intelligence Index Report 2021. The people building AI systems are not representative of the people those systems are meant to serve. People working in AI in North America, at least, are predominantly male, white, heterosexual, and cisgender. This is from that same report. Female graduates of AI PhD programs in North America have accounted for less than 18% of all PhD graduates on average. In 2018, among new US resident AI PhD graduates, 45% were white, while 22.4% were Asian, 3.2% were Hispanic, and 2.4% were African American. The percentage of white, non-Hispanic, new computing PhDs has changed little over the last 10 years, accounting for 62.7 on average. Membership survey by Queer in AI back in 2020 found that, quote, almost half the respondents said they view the lack of inclusiveness in the field as an obstacle they have faced, and more than 40% of members surveyed said that they have experienced discrimination or harassment as a queer person at work or school. This is very similar to numbers that you will see, and definitely conditions, situations that you'll see around women and female presenting people in computer science and engineering fields. And when you are working in a hostile environment, that is not great. And nobody can blame people for leaving that field and taking their talent to a much less hostile place to be. But unfortunately, that does mean that it becomes, the whole field becomes more, you know, heterogeneous, and there's just not, homogeneous. They become more alike as people leave the field. Only as unbiased as the systems and institutions into which it's deployed. Healthcare is a great example for this. 70%, this is from Implicit Racial Ethnic Bias Among Healthcare Professionals and Its Influence on Healthcare Outcomes, a systematic review. Shout out all my fellow librarians. 70% of physicians showed some level of implicit bias against Black people and Hispanic Latinos. 51% of physicians had moderate to strong levels of bias against Hispanics, Latinos, Latinas. And 42% of physicians had moderate to strong levels of bias against Black people. That is a serious problem. Social media, we're talking about biases, here we go. This is from a study and report titled Automated Ableism, an exploration of explicit disability biases in sentiment and toxicity analysis models. Quote, we analyze sentiment analysis and toxicity detection models to detect the presence of explicit bias against people with disability, PWD. We employ the bias identification framework of perturbation sensitivity analysis to examine conversations related to PWD on social media platforms, specifically Twitter and Reddit, in order to gain insight into how disability bias is disseminated in real-world social settings. And yeah, what they found wasn't great. Again, I have a link to this in the resources, but basically it was like, yes, this is very, very toxic towards PWDs. Just not very good. And it would be bad enough, but if you know the numbers, like 1 in 5 people in the United States have a disability. So this is widespread. So what's to be done about this? We can question current data sets and demand better and more diverse ones. Normalize the use of equity tools. There is such a thing called an algorithmic impact assessment. Ada Lovelace Institute has a series on AIAs in healthcare. Quote, this user guide describes the recommended algorithmic impact assessment process for teams seeking access to imaging data from the proposed National Medical Imaging Platform for one of 3 reasons: to conduct research that uses NMIP imaging data, to train a new medical product that uses NMIP imaging data, to test an existing medical product on NMIP imaging data. And if you want to have access to this, you have to use their AIA, which is great. Again, more equity tools. This is a report. I think of it as a tool, but AI Now has released Advancing Racial Equity Through Technology Policy. Definitely policy is playing a huge role in how AI is going to be used, deployed, where it'll go. And so it's very important to have an understanding of what that means in terms of policy and how racial equity and all kinds of equity can play into that. I'm pronouncing this Equitas. It is an open source Biot audit toolkit for machine learning developers, analysts, and policymakers to audit machine learning models for discrimination and bias and make informed and equitable decisions around developing and deploying predictive risk assessment tools. Awesome. Just like there are online accessibility tools where you can run your website through one of those, you can run your AI through one of these. Another thing that we can do is to support accessibility standards. I call it WCAG. I don't know what the youth call it. That's what I call the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. They had an artificial intelligence and accessibility research symposium in 2023. We should be supporting these guidelines. Don't get me wrong, the fight for accessibility on the web is by no means over, but it is more of an everyday part of things. And this is where we need to get AI to be. It should just be a matter of course that it is being looked at with these tools. Well, what else can we do? Well, please amplify BIPOC researchers and their work. 2 folks that you may have heard of, if you haven't, please go look at their stuff. There are links in the resource slides. Timnit Gebru, who was fired from Google. That's a whole thing. Look at it later. And Meredith Broussard, who has written at least 2 really excellent books on this topic. But be aware of them. Be aware of their work. You know, retweet their stuff. Like, get the word out there. Make sure that their voices are the ones that people hear about and know about. Again, question the data sets on which the tools are trained. I've said it before, this is not an especially great metaphor, but AI, machine learning, they're like toddlers. And, you know, if you curse a lot around a toddler, your toddler is going to learn to curse, which is fine. I'm not judging your parenting, right? But if your toddler watches nothing but SpongeBob, they're going to talk like SpongeBob. They're going to learn words from SpongeBob. And it isn't their fault. It is, they are learning what we are putting in front of them. And that's how we have to think about the data sets. Advocate for AI practices that don't worsen health disparities. If you're not sure what that means, I refer you to the first bullet point again. Educate whomever you can about the bad and good related to AI, because there is both, right? There's a lot to learn. Here are a few places you can go and learn more about that. I'd like to focus a bit on that last bullet point, which is what's happening at your institution. Should you be involved? Well, I can't answer that for you. I don't know. But I do believe you should know what's happening at your institution. Find out as much as you can, especially if you are a librarian and people are going to be asking you about, you know how anytime anybody can't find an answer, they come to the library no matter what it is, which is great. But you should at least be conversant with, are they debating a policy? Have they subscribed to any tools? Are they looking at any particular iteration of anything? And should you be involved? That is up to you. It's up to your time. It's up to whether they'll let you. But I do think it's good to ask the question. Speaking of questions, a common question that I am often asked is, will AI replace jobs? And you know what my answer is? My answer may shock you. No. Jobs will be replaced by someone using AI. I know I tricked you a little bit. I think when we hear the phrase, AI is going to take our jobs, that conjures up a very specific mental image, right? We think of a computer somewhere taking our job. That is not how it's going to be. It is going to be somebody who has learned how to use the AI tools and is working with them. In much the same way, librarians, when the card catalog went online and, suddenly there was no Reader's Guide to Periodical Literature, there were these databases. Sure, some jobs went away. We don't employ a lot of shelvers these days, right? Because we have a lot less books. But now there are jobs that we never could have conceived of using those tools. Should I be afraid of AI? I say no. Don't be afraid of AI. Be wary of those already in power who want to use AI in the way that they've used every other tool that's come along. Again, AI is very primitive right now, but it's extremely powerful. And there are folks who have a lot of power already. I don't think they should have more. I do think AI should be in the hands of nonprofits who are trying to apply for grant money, right? I think it should be in a lot of hands. It should not be kept just in the hands of folks who already have too much power and haven't done a lot of good stuff with the tools they already have. That's just my opinion. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to advance my slide here. I love this quote. This is from DARE Institute, which is, I can't remember the name right now, but it is people of color working on AI. We are an interdisciplinary and globally distributed AI research institute rooted in the belief that, this is the kicker here, AI is not inevitable, its harms are preventable, and when its production and deployment include diverse perspectives and deliberate processes, it can be beneficial. Our research reflects our lived experience and centers our communities. That is so important to keep in mind. But good news, everyone. There is a way to think about this. I'm going to have to beg your indulgence because it may not seem like I'm going anywhere with this at first, but I promise I am. I want to talk to you just for well, I'll get to that in a second. I got ahead of myself. The good news that Professor Farnsworth was referring to is this study that came out of MIT, Beyond AI Exposure, Which Tasks Are Cost Effective to Automate with Computer Vision. Basically, they're saying that it is not really cost effective to replace people with AI for visual vision tasks at this point. 77% of vision tasks are not economical to automate if a system can only be used at the firm level. So yes, it is coming. It's not coming as fast as people are afraid they are, right? Now, let me get to my long-winded metaphor. We're almost done, I promise. I want to talk to you about linen, lobster, and loaves. All of these things that you see right now on the screen used to be for the poor. Only poor people wore linen, right? If you were wealthy, you wore a very fine cotton. Lobsters were fed to convicts, and because they were cheap and people considered them disgusting. And wheat bread, peasants only, my friends. But over time that changed. Linen is an extremely expensive fabric now. Lobster is one of the most expensive things on a menu most of the time. And white bread is among the cheapest items that you can buy at a grocery store. So if you want whole wheat bread, it's going to be a lot more expensive. But that flip has happened. And it happened kind of suddenly, right? And I have been, in this field long enough. I've seen a lot of technology go a lot of different ways, and something will happen and people think, oh, this is so great. Like, not just technology, but let's think about clothes, right? It used to be that if, you made your own clothes, you were poor, you were wealthy if you could go to the store and buy a new dress. And now it's kind of the opposite. Fast fashion, also terrible for the environment. It is much cheaper to go to a store than it is to pay someone to custom make a dress for you. This is how we will, we'll see this shift with AI. Right now, it's really exciting and there's a lot that you can do with it. And yes, there will be changes in jobs and things. And people want to move everything to AI, but eventually they're going to want to move some stuff back. That is just human nature. That is just kind of I've been doing like a lot of what's going on right now. That is kind of my long-term prediction for how that's going to shake out. Thank you so much. If you have questions or you just want to chat about AI, you can get in touch with me, krb3k@virginia.edu. And like I said, I have a ton of slides in there. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, I'm doing pretty well on time. I'm going to turn it back over to Christine.
Yeah, thank you, Kimberly. This was really great. So right now, we're happy to take questions. I know there were some issues with opening the slides. I think we've solved that. But do we have does anyone have any questions about the talk? I saw also some people sharing some more resources. Thank you.
Great.
Noting all of those. Yeah.
Nobody? Really? We have time.
Do you think ChatGPT will ever be able to do math?
Probably. I mean, all it needs is a data set, right? I think we'll be able to teach it to do all kinds of things. Yeah. I'm also not a mathematician though, but yeah, just from what I've seen, I think so. Yeah.
Someone asked actually, can you talk more about the history of AI?
Yes. So while I'm talking, I'll ask you, is there anything specific or a specific time period you're interested in? But so I've actually been teaching a version of my AI and healthcare class for 8 or 9 years at this point. I teach usually once a month, I pick up whatever classes what class I want to teach per month for faculty development. I teach a lot of CME. And Christine read off some of the stuff that I teach, but I've been teaching this a really long time, and I have a much more involved timeline in my earlier iterations, but I knew I was working on a very, very limited time crunch, so I'll just try to compress it. But is there anything in particular that you were interested in, or a particular era?
The Al-Jazari mention?
Oh yeah. That is really cool. So if you Google Al-Jazari, he actually constructed an orchestra of like automatons, and they were able to play music. You should definitely look it up for sure. I'm looking now in the chat. Let's see. Is there any AI that really surprised me? No, not really, not yet. I don't know if you've seen the AI that can transform your voice as you're speaking into different languages. That's pretty wild. But I don't know, I've seen a lot and I read a lot. Like I would say I'm an educated amateur. I would not call myself an expert, but I'm just immersed in it a lot through reading and playing around with it. So I haven't really been surprised. Yeah. Oh, somebody mentioned that, oh, David, hey, David, that GPT-4 has a Wolfram Alpha plugin. Okay, yeah, for sure. If Wolfram Alpha is involved in that, it would have some strong math capabilities. Thank you for that. Any thoughts on the future of checking plagiarism that used AI? Like, is there a tool academia can use? Yes, there is. I cannot for the life of me think of the name of any of them, but they do exist. And also, y'all, I would just point out, like, AI is bad. Like, you can tell if something's written by AI. Like I said, it's very primitive. Some do a better job than other, but I actually cut out a slide of visual. It's really kind of bad at a lot of visual stuff. I cut out a slide that I had where I fed like 15 images of myself into a couple of different AIs, and they generated all these different things. And some of them were really cool, but when they messed up, they really messed up. Like a common one that I see is 2 or more pupils in one eye. Hands always look very weird. And they tend to generate extra limbs. And if you think about it, I don't know how many of you use Designer if you're making things in PowerPoint, you can click Designer and it'll help you with your design. That's an AI and it's so bad at it, right? Like how many times have you used that and you have a graphic of some sort and in all the options, the graphic will be cut off or anything. And that's because it doesn't know. So it just has a long way to go,
Could I piggyback on that, Kimberly?
Of
On
course.
that, I'm kind of immersed in this because it's my business to do so. I'm a hybrid position. I'm a medical librarian / writing support for a graduate medical school, and so I have a lot of dealings with students who are coming to me with bad papers per se. So what I have found that ChatGPT does really well is it summarizes really well. It's also really good at outlining. If you have a project or an idea, it's good at coming up with ideas for you. But of course, it hallucinates if you try to write a paper.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, it does have its uses. I use it for my presentations because it can do outlining better than I can.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that. I mean, it does some things badly, but 100%. I mean, I use it too. And it does some things very well. So I'm not saying that at all. I am pro AI, but I also, I see where it can be better, I won't be the one programming it to be better, but yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to add about that, Kevin?
No, I concur with you on that, Kimberly.
Okay.
I do think it will be getting better as far as that goes, but
Absolutely.
you're absolutely right in terms of being able to detect if ChatGPT or any other AI has done extensive writing in a student paper. It has a tone.
Absolutely. Yes.
It has a style. And for most students, they don't write in a ChatGPT style.
Right.
Yeah. And so if you have an astute ear, if you will, for reading these snippets that they produce, you'll be able to tell that it's artificial intelligence.
I agree. I agree. Let's see, another question. How would you suggest we approach leadership in the library about research tools for patrons? Can we teach them? Should we teach them? Academic settings have whole live guides, but my hospital hasn't provided that kind of list of tools yet. So listen, especially if the smaller your shop is, like if you are an academic library and you're small, you don't have somebody who can really dedicate to this. If there's anything that you can piggyback off of, like at UVA here, we have the health sciences library, but we also have the main academic library. We are doing our own AI stuff. They're just kind of moving into this in any real way of producing lab guides or whatever. But if another entity has done those things and you don't have the people power to do that, that's totally fine. You can just put a link on your website for more information, check out this other one's live guide. And so, you know, if you do have the bandwidth and you're interested in it and it's something you want to take on, I say yes, right? I say go for it, because we always want to train our patrons to come to us for things, all right? And it's always nice if we have those things ready to go. So I think the question is not so much, can we teach them? Should we teach them? I mean, if possible, yes. I think the question is which ones, right? Because there are so many tools out there. So if your institution is officially saying, okay, we're going to subscribe to this one, this is the tool, then I would definitely be providing instruction on that tool. If they haven't chosen a tool and you feel like you need to be talking about it, providing some kind of instruction, I would just do like a general overview of, this is generative AI. This is what it does. Here are some examples of it. And here are some of those tools that do that. And then you could go like each different type of AI if you wanted to. But yeah, if you have the people power and the time to put into it, I say, yeah, for sure. What is your thoughts on AI and misinformation? Any advice on how to regulate the entity to deploy the AI tool? So this is actually a really good question. Has everybody heard of open crawl? If somebody wants to Google it and drop a link in the chat, that'd be awesome. Open crawl is something that's been around for a long time, and they collect, you know, information from anything that's open. And the New York Times has already been always been a part of this. They've always allowed open crawl to get their stuff. They have recently said, no, you can no longer open crawl. You can no longer have access to our stuff. And a lot of entities are doing that as well. And that's bad, because the ones that are leaving it open, like there's a lot of, and this is not my politics coming into this is just a fact, a lot of right-leaning news sources are leaving theirs open. So that is now what is being stored and archived, and in kind of the next step of that is what AIs are learning from, right? So instead of being able to gather information like across the board, certain sections are just being removed, leaving them with a much smaller pool of things that they're archiving that they're then letting AIs learn on. So that's a big problem. They don't have this problem in Norway. In Norway, they're making up their own large language model to deal with all of the press organizations in Norway. I'm explaining it badly, but if you Google that, you'll get some more information on that. So yeah, misinformation, it's really bad. And it just like the great things about AI, how fast it is, how much it can do. When you think about that in terms of misinformation, that's terrible. And, you know, I think it comes down to, got to check those sources. You know, Google Truth is the automatic acceptance that whatever we see on Google must be real, right? So it's just teaching people, making them aware. You know, if you're doing your, if you are doing classes on AI or talking about it, definitely bringing that piece about misinformation in it is really important. Oh, good. Thank you, Brian. Say hello to everybody at the VA for me. Oh yeah, Bradley or Jeanette saw a demo of the voice thing last week. It's very spooky, right? Yeah. Nicole asked, what would your response be to the people who say we've already gone too far or that there's no turning back now when it comes to AI advancement and its societal impacts? I agree. I mean, short of an EMP that takes out everything worldwide, I mean, it's here, you know, unless something just earth-shattering, society destroying happens. I just really feel like it is here. But I feel like the harmful effects, those are not inevitable. If we can get ourselves together and, you know, make those decisions not out of greed, not out of fear, not out of, you know, a lot of other negative things, I think it can be really good. I mean, if you look in healthcare alone, just the things that AI has helped with already are just stunning. But yeah, I think we're there, Nicole. Yeah. What is
Kimberly, if I can, oh, sorry, if I can just briefly
no.
break in to,
ahead.
it's been a great conversation. There's been great questions in the chat. And I'm just I have my final slide here, with our evaluation link. I keep doing it in the wrong order. The link is in the chat. We'll share that again. There's contact information for myself and Katie, who's been helping in the chat. There's also a few other Love Data Week events that are coming up. There's actually one that will be starting in just a few minutes from the All of Us Researcher Workbench, the role of the library. Tomorrow there's All's Fair in Love and Software, and on Thursday there's a presentation, or there's a class on the NIH Data Management and Sharing Policy Overview. You can also learn more or see a full list of our trainings at nln.gov/training. But again, thank you so much for all of your wonderful questions and just for your all of the, and Kimberly, thank you for everything. We can take maybe one more question, or it's up to you if you. I know there's been a lot of questions, so we may also be able to send out more when we're done or after
Yeah,
the
and I would also say just, you know, please reach out. I went away from Twitter for a few years. I had to for my own mental health. But, you know, if you want to contact me there too. Somebody asked about copyright and AI. I can't get into it right now, but we need to proceed very carefully with that. Because we're saying, well, no, AI can't have access to this. We need to protect writers and artists and people creating content. But we also need not to have a reactionary reaction to AI. And suddenly, I think we could end up doing a lot of harm if we're not really careful in how we approach AI learning from copyrighted material. But that's a whole other thing. Thank you so much. I love talking about this. So if you want to reach out, I'd be happy to chat. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Yeah, everyone who is registered will receive a copy of, we'll send a link, we'll send out an email when the recording is available. Also a list of the resources that Kimberly had in her slides, and that'll be in, we're also sending out the slides again if you didn't get them today. So yeah, thank you. And if you're able to fill out the evaluation, we value your feedback. And